Hey, what's going on? It's Friday, December 6th. I told you the next time I'd see you, we'd be deep into December, and here we are because I'm telling you, from the 6th to the 25th, and baby Jesus's birthday, aka Christmas, it's going to go by like that. So I hope you take time to slow life down. Breathe in that holiday spirit wherever you are. Take the extra walk, have the extra coffee with a friend, go visit your family member, go give an extra call to your mom or dad or your grandma or your grandpa, or inverse, to your child or your grandchild or whomever it may be. Call your best friend, tell them you love them. Let's not let this period, this month, these holidays just zip past us and consume us by getting caught up into the consumption of them. So that's what I'm imploring you to do. And in the spirit of that, maybe I can encourage you to slow down and have some what I call long form, good old fashioned conversations with the people that you love and respect in your life. Conversation and the power of conversation has been deeply on my mind recently, but especially this week, and for a few different reasons. One, I'm obsessed with it. I am obsessed with the power of conversation. As you know, I'm a huge believer in the power of kind of long form, human-centered storytelling, and that's obviously what our podcast at our sister podcast here at Entrepreneurial Thinkers is all about. But it's also the root of most of my best core memories in life. I can tie back to like incredible experiences or memories of people in my family history. Even recent memories of conversations that I've had or people, and it ties back to some conversation that we had somewhere. Over the last few weeks of the holidays here in the US, it was Thanksgiving holiday here last week. So many of my memories of the week are painted with the brush of a great conversation, whether it be with my nieces on our traditional walk as we walk to Starbucks on Thanksgiving morning. There's a long, funny story about why we walked to Starbucks on Thanksgiving morning that has nothing to do with it being Starbucks, but has more to do with when they were little kids and they lived in the suburbs and they never walked anywhere. They always got driven. They always were in a car, right? They had very car-dependent Southern California suburban life. And Uncle Rob came bumbling along and was like, hey, I'm going to go get some Starbucks. And they're like, oh, let's ask our mom if she'll drive us. And I was like, well, no, I was just going to walk. Like, there's a Starbucks like a mile from your house. Like, I was just going to walk there. And they were like, what? That's crazy, when they were little kids, right? And now we've done this yearly since then. And the conversations that we have on that mile walk there, and then while we hang out at Starbucks, and that mile walk back, are some of the most incredibly powerful memories I have of those two young ladies, these two girls. I've also been talking with, as you know, you've heard me talk about it in our business, I've been talking with dozens of interested prospective sponsors, and now even some of our early committed sponsors to our shows this last couple of weeks. And I've been surprised, gratefully so, by a few times in which the conversations, so it might start in a text or an email, and then it's like, hey, let's talk about this. And then the conversations that we have led unexpectedly and beautifully surprisingly to kind of creative brainstorming and revelations creatively about ways that, yes, we can do the sponsorship, but what if we could do that plus this and plus this? And if we could, yes, we want to do that 100%, count us in, but could we also do this with you? Could you also help us achieve this with what our thinking was, our vision, our plans? And if not for those conversations, those human interactions where you kind of came in with a partial intention, but you didn't necessarily have it clearly defined, I don't know that we get to those places, right? I've just recently been inspired by a really wide-ranging conversation that I had with a great friend. We've known each other for almost 10 years, and we started by talking about one part of our relationship, and then it just kind of widened out, and we wound up talking about everything that you could possibly imagine that is kind of laced into our existence together, our past work, her career, about her, about me personally, about my work, about the podcast, about the intentionality of the podcast, about the conversations that happen. And all of this that happened, by the way, happened asynchronously. So we weren't even talking live on FaceTime or on Zoom or video, or we weren't sitting across from each other. She lives in Mexico City, I live here in Los Angeles. But we were talking asynchronously. We were literally having a very fulsome, loving, thoughtful, detailed, wide-ranging conversation via WhatsApp voice messages, which if you know me, you know I'm prone to do that. But it's also beautiful that like the people around me have adapted and adjusted, and we now have great, important conversations that are like the bedrocks of our relationships in an asynchronous way, like when it's timely and convenient. So that conversation just kind of continued to remind me how important patience is, how important creative conversation is, how important the ability to just kind of have an open-endedness to a conversation leads to just really important, meaningful connection between people. And you've heard me say this often, like I fundamentally believe in it, right? I believe that in today's noisy, negative, enragement, engagement, clickbait business and general media landscape that we consume, that there's not only like a space for this sort of positive, uplifting, slow, patient, long-form conversation that we create at Entrepreneurial Thinkers, but I think it's beyond just that there's a space for it, like there's room in the market. I think it's fundamental. I think it's a desperate human need of ours to have connectivity and conversations. I think we are fundamentally meant to think and connect and discuss and debate. I think it's how we learn. I think it's how we preserve our tradition and pass down our stories to the next generations. I think it's fundamentally the only way, I fundamentally believe it is the only way that we make progress together is by coming together and talking. Doesn't mean you're always going to agree, right? We don't have to have perfect alignment. That's a myth. That doesn't exist. But like the fact that we converse is fundamental to who we are. If we stop conversing with others, if we stop talking to people in our lives or people that we bump into over the course of our days, or even just the person on the other side of the counter in your retail experiences, or the barista at the coffee shop, the checkout person at the grocery store, if we automate humanity out of our existence, we take away conversations, we're fundamentally stripping us of something that makes us different than the animal species that we roam this planet with. So in that pursuit, right, that's one of the reasons I get so passionate about my beliefs about the power of what we're doing at Entrepreneurial Thinkers. It's why I come on here and I share these stoppage time moments with you every week, because I see it. It's validated all the time. Two perfect examples in our podcast arena are conversations that we've just recently dropped. We have an episode that just dropped this week that you can go and enjoy, and that it'll drop Monday on our YouTube channel with Alejandro Gonzalez, one of the managing partners from one of the more prominent venture capital firms in Mexico called Redwood Ventures, and Santa Terra Capital is one of their sister funds. And at the end of this beautiful, long, very detailed, very thoughtful, super insightful conversation about Mexican venture capital, the opportunity for the Latino markets here in the US, Latin American venture capital and investments and entrepreneurship. At the end of that, I caught myself listening back to the conversation with him, and I literally said to him, man, I think this is the longest conversation we've had since 2019 as individuals, he and I. And I just said, I'm so grateful for it. Thank you. And as I listened back to it for editorial purposes last night, I was struck by that comment at the end. I thought, like, this podcast, like a thing that people would say, oh, it's a podcast and you're trying to do this and that. Like, but it's fundamentally just a conversation between me and my friend and former client, Alejandro, to get an update and insights into what he sees in the world that we're playing in, which is incredible. Separately, I'm still buzzing from last week's episode that we dropped across all our platforms. You know where you can find us, wherever you listen to your audio, Spotify, Apple, wherever else, and of course on our YouTube channel under Entrepreneurial Thinkers with me, Rob Ryan. But the conversation that we dropped last week with the episode with Qiana Patterson, my friend here in Los Angeles, it still resonates with me. It's a week later, and I have said repeatedly that this conversation was a gift to me and to all of you, and it truly was. So I encourage you all to go plug in and listen to both of these episodes. You can find them wherever we post them, as I've said before. But I implore you to do it mostly because I just want you to share in. I want you to plug in and hear the power of positive energy that can shift between two people when they're having a deep, thoughtful, crafted, in the case of our podcast, conversation. Because it's life-changing for me. It's one of the reasons that I do this. I fundamentally started podcasting because it serves me, because it is joyful for me, because it enriches and informs and educates and inspires me, And if it can do that for me, I'm not special, I'm not that much different than you, it has the potential to do that for you. So I strongly, strongly recommend that you go find those couple of shows most recently and enjoy them. And I'm going to give you 2 recommendations, 2 different pieces of the puzzle at the end of the show that just strengthen and validate the power of conversations. One is a book, and then one is a podcast favorite of mine. So the book first, we've recommended this book before. It's called Talking with Strangers, What We Should Know About the People We Don't Know. And it's by Malcolm Gladwell. You've heard me talk about it before. It is a fundamental guidebook, in my humble opinion, to how to cherish and get good at talking to and better understanding others in our lives. It's mission critical. As far as I'm concerned. Like, this is a topic that we all need to work on. And so again, Talking to Strangers, What We Should Know About the People We Don't Know by Malcolm Gladwell. It's a book, you can pick it up anywhere you listen or find your books. The podcast recommendation is from On with Kara Swisher, the podcast. I would love to someday say my friend Kara Swisher. I'm not that lucky. I'm just a fanboy. She is what I think is the preeminent interviewer and conversationalist in the business media landscape, but now more generally speaking in news media today. She is an accomplished journalist of great accolade. I'm a huge fan of all the different podcasts and different formats that she presents herself in. But I think fundamentally she's the best at the biz at this type of long form interview conversations that I try and mimic in our shows and Entrepreneurial Thinkers with my own twist and my own personality. And our different bent on things from an entrepreneurial standpoint. But if you enjoy those types of conversations as we share on Entrepreneurial Thinkers, or if you enjoy long-form conversational podcasts or video media in other places in your life, I encourage you to go check out Kara's episodes and Kara's show, On with Kara Swisher. You can find it on any of your audio and video platforms because I think, again, it's just a great validation of what's really important, which is that we talk to each other more and that we talk more to each other. Right? So talk with each other more, talk to more of each other, and then we just spend more time talking to each other and allowing conversation to take us where it will. So that's it. That's it for this week. It's Friday. I hope you have an awesome weekend. I hope you find joy and some extra time and some good energy now during these holiday Fridays, the stoppage time between kind of the end of our year and the beginning of a new year in 2025, which I'm very excited about, and I'm excited about it for you. But I also implore you to find time, make time to have greater, longer term conversations, right? Again, over a coffee, over a drink, over a hike, over a walk, in a car ride, wherever you have the chance to ask a question, to talk about something you maybe haven't talked about with that friend or that person or that peer or that coworker before. Just give yourself the space to have great conversations because they can be the things that wind up basically changing the direction or shaping the direction of your lives going forward. So peace. We'll see you right back here next Friday.